Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on, and that's an excellent question, February 8th, 2026, at approximately 8 p.m. PST. Now, in case you hadn't noticed, time and I do not always get along. That said, before we go any further, I do want to tip my hat to Storm. He is our primary moderator who usually hides in the back making sure tech works. And rest assured, when it comes to me, that's a challenge in and of itself. Now we scroll, let's go back to the top, and we scroll down and we have, who do we got coming in here? I know I do it a little backwards, but what the heck. Then we have Kira Ava, another moderator. She spends most of her time in the front end, making certain that the conversation carries on, and frankly, keeping an eye open to see whether or not I've missed a question. And given my memory, that's probably not a bad idea. Then we have L.A. Moon, our primary moderator, who sits in the front room, keeping the conversation going. Like all my moderators, she keeps an eye out for problem children. But the big bonus on with her part is she keeps an eye on my physical health to make sure I don't go dropping dead on everybody. Which, it doesn't worry me too much, but my wife behind me may complain a little if I do it again. Now we go all the way back up to the top and see who we got coming in here. We have Eternity Eternal. You are in with the gold. How you doing, Eternity? Hopefully things are going well for you. And then we have with the silver, Kitty Cattywhack. How's it going, Kitty Catty? Absolutely pleased to see you. And I hope things are settled down. I know they were a little hectic for you a little earlier. And then we go down a little further. And we have... what do we got here? Oh, there's Operation Shutdown. How you doing, Operation? Glad you could join us. It's really weird. I used to not really look forward to these at all. It was like, okay, I'm doing it because I said I would. Right. And what's happened now is I actually take a look at it and go, oh, wait a minute, I got to get on air. Because people are waiting for me. I had a call today. I mentioned I've got all the books out, and if the books out, the spiritual guide. I've been a psychic consultant for years. Well, frankly, since I was born, it became public knowledge when I was 10. I went professional as in earning an income when I was 23. And that's a story unto itself. But I got a call today from somebody. Okay. Actually, in all fairness, it was a text. Right, asking, and they laid out the situation. They'd lost something, or more to the point, someone they knew had lost something. So they texted me the information. This is what we're missing. This is the last place we saw it, and it was a very ambiguous, very generalized. Here's where it was. So I typed it back. He says, "Can you help me find it?" I said, so I typed it back, and I went, "Here's where you want to look." I missed, I kid you not, by about 3 feet. Okay. Instead of it being on the floor, it was on top of the dresser. But had the right end of the dresser the whole 9 yards. And bear in mind, this is somebody, and I have no idea where he's from. Okay. One day I should probably ask people this sort of thing.
He mentioned Hawaii.
Oh, there we go. And Kara's saying that the individual, when he called back to say thank you, mentioned he was calling out of Hawaii. Now, I'm in Kelowna, BC. Okay. I have never been to Hawaii. And honestly, the odds of my going there are not good. But that's just one of those neat little side effects. I'm still doing that work. As a matter of fact, our immigration consultant that's helping with my wife's immigration into Canada, I used to work for him. And, he was quite happy that I'm still floating around, asked if I was still doing the psychic work. And I went, yeah, I am. I'm still doing a lot more in the way of writing and what have you. But with all that said, today we are looking at energy vampires. What are they? Now, everybody's heard of vampires. Okay. And many people have heard the idea of an energy vampire, i.e., somebody that walks in and suddenly everybody's energy collapses. Okay. What is an energy vampire? More often than not, these people do not know they're doing it. But what they are is they are an energy soak. Okay. They walk by you and they instinctively reach out and pull any excess energy or any necessary energy from you. Okay. Usually it's quite by accident. Whoa, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Let me just see here. I think I missed something. Silver and Kitty Catty came in with the silver, and Operation came in with the bronze. Therefore, Woo, you are in with honorable mention. And yeah, things have been going reasonably well. Okay. But an energy vampire, more often than not, is somebody that instinctively, the moment they feel their energy is collapsing, they instinctively reach out and pull energy from wherever they can get it. And yes, most of them are totally uncontrolled. In my case, now there are some good things that you can do and some bad things. I virtually always recommend focus on the good things you can do. Okay. I knew about my ability when I was first married. Our eldest son had trouble sleeping at night, and nobody could get him to calm down using traditional methods. So, I let this go on. We all trying to stay away from the energy work. And don't ask me to explain exactly why that was. But at one point, we've been trying. He really, really desired to go to sleep. That was obvious. But he just couldn't settle. So I walked in. I said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Walked into his room. 30 seconds later, he was out like a light. Okay. Now, there are people I've done this to before. Okay. Where I'll look at them and literally, if I know they require sleep. Now, bear in mind, I do not do this ever when it is something that is where it would be dangerous. For instance, you're in the passenger seat and your driver's having trouble. Don't take your driver's energy away. This is a bad idea. Okay, it ends in a very bad outcome. Okay, you know the old saying, I'd like to die peaceably in my sleep like my grandmother did, not screaming in terror like the passengers in her car. So, I've walked in with people where they're having trouble settling, and I've simply gone, you're going to sleep now. Never walk near them, never put my hand on them. It's just, you're going to go to sleep now. And I kid you not, these people will sit there and go, I don't want to. And I look at them and go, and I care why? You're going to sleep. Right. And some of them will fight it and then pass out. But what an energy vampire does, an energy vampire pulls the energy out. You can do exactly the same thing. Like, for instance, if you happen to be a passenger in a car and you notice that the driver is having trouble, it may be wise to siphon energy to them. Now, if you've ever heard of Reiki people usually refer to as healing, but it's the same energy pattern, okay, that you use to bolster somebody's health. In this case, bolstering their awareness. And I don't know about you, but if I'm in a car with somebody that's having trouble staying awake and they're driving, I'm thinking it may be an idea to keep them awake. Now, you get to figure out whether that's the case. But an energy vampire literally, automatically, in most cases, automatically siphons energy. Now, I will tell you, I have pulled energy out of people because I've had to stay awake, right? And people that usually don't sleep will go to sleep. this is not a bad thing, depending on why you're trying to stay awake. There's a lot of things that take place. And what you got to realize is that most energy vampires, very much like most Sanguinan, when they hunt or when they pull energy, they are doing it out of instinct. Okay, it's not a question of whether or not you're trying to do it. It's a question of it's got to be done, and the drive is just absolutely overwhelming. When you get the more advanced ones, okay, the more advanced energy vampires, they can deliberately siphon your energy and knock you out. Now, here's the kicker. You take too much energy, you kill people. Okay? I mean, talk about the silent assassin. Now, it would be fascinating to find out how many people around me in the hospital, and especially in the operating room, were drained of their get up and go while I was having a heart attack. It was like while I was dealing with my heart stopping. Okay, I just don't have an answer for you there. But energy vampires, like every other species, every other talent, have positive sides and negative ones. And the biggest challenge with it is deciding how, if you know you're an energy vampire, and here's a couple of things that you can use to decipher that. But before I get to that, let's understand something. Anybody, any species, can be an energy vampire. Okay, this is an instinctive drive. It is not something that you go, oh, I think I'm going to be an energy vampire. Now, you may have gone, gee, that would be really nice. I think I'll teach myself how to do that. I am not having a good day today. Not to worry, this is just salt. But most energy vampires, they are born that way. They've got no idea they're doing it. So turning around and telling somebody, oh, you're an energy vampire, they may not understand it at all. Okay. But some of you have learned how to do it. Okay. And I caution you, do not use it in a haphazard fashion. The one thing, as with all abilities, that you have to be careful of is the energetic swap can be addictive. Okay. And if you've got an addictive personality, i.e., have you been a drug addict, an alcoholic? Do you have a tendency of really focusing on and essentially emotionally reveling in other people's pain? If these are natural habits or habits you've gotten into for whatever reason, you have the potential, especially if you're teaching yourself or figuring out how to be an energy vampire, you've got a very strong potential for becoming addicted to that energy flow. And yes, you pull enough energy out of somebody, you can and will kill them. Okay, this is why you got to be careful. Now, I've spent I'm rough guesstimation about 55 years figuring out how to handle energy. Okay, because let's face it, the first few years I wasn't trying to figure it out. I just simply ran with it. Now, the nice part about it is once you understand that an energy vampire is an ability, okay, it is not a deliberate way of life in most cases. Yes, there are some people that suddenly they end up doing it so much, they go, I've got to have it to continue operating. Okay, this is something to watch for, especially if you feel you may be one. By the way, there's nothing wrong with being an energy vampire. There is something wrong with utilizing that ability once you know that you've got it. There's something wrong with utilizing it for your own benefit, or worse, just simply to harm somebody else. And that may be nothing more than, I'm just going to play around with them. Okay. I remember I was working in a live psychic fair one day, and this woman that was sitting beside me, I felt something. I looked at her, and I went, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Well, you got so much extra energy. I was just taking some of it." 4 hours later, she came to, and she missed the whole event, right? And she says, "What happened?" I said, "Next time you're going to try and bleed somebody's energy, you may desire to make sure they don't know how to handle it themselves." Because all I did was, the moment she told me she was siphoning it, I just reversed the pull on it and drained all of her energy all the way to knock her out. Now, do understand, could I have drawn more energy and had her drop dead at that point? Certainly. But why would I do that? All I wanted her to do was stop drawing my energy without go ahead. Okay. And this is just one of those things. Again, it comes down to karmic law. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Kitty Cattywack is going, those people protesting to be one, protesting to be one thing, but they do the opposite. Absolutely. Unfortunately, I see this in so many industries. I've mentioned the issue with UFO specialists. They go, "Oh, I'm an expert, and I live in this world, and this is the sort of thing I do." And they turn around and they they degrade other people, or they're very derogatory towards them when somebody steps forth and says, "Hey, I think I've had a UFO encounter." And let's be clear, if somebody tells you, no matter what profession you're standing in, if they think they've had a UFO encounter, this simply means, and quite literally means, they watched something in the sky that they could not identify. Hence, unknown. Okay. And this is something we have to realize. But I see so many people claim to be one profession or claim to have an outlook, and everything they do screams against it. Okay. Like, if you ever heard, one of the rarest things in existence that I've run into is, and this is going to sound really rude, okay, is an honest politician. Okay. Now, to be clear, okay, every person ever born is a politician. Okay. Every one of you at one point or another is a first responder. Okay. Energy vampires come from every walk of life, every profession, and every species. Okay. And that's because they don't actually control what they're doing for the most part. Some of them figure out how to control it, but that's very seldom, comparatively speaking. The important thing with an energy vampire is, if you know they are one, it's if you know they are one, or if they say they are one, understand getting them to prove it could be a problem. Okay. Because they may not know how to control it. In all fairness, most people don't. But have you ever noticed anybody walks into a room where there's a lot of people milling about, and within moments, without the person saying anything, have you ever known somebody to walk into a room and the party dies without anybody saying a word? Okay. It just ends up coming to a close. And what? Like I did that at a house party one day. I walked through the door. Now I was late getting there, but the place was wall to wall people. So I tracked down the owner of the house. He was a friend of mine. Asked what was going on, and because these guys didn't want to create a problem, they didn't want to cause a fight to happen. Right? They had not been able to get people to leave. They told me this 20 minutes later. Aside from the people that belonged there, i.e., the ones that actually lived in the house or were temporary residents, everybody else within 20 minutes had walked out. The reason for that is simple. Because of knowing how to control energy, I just simply sucked all the energy out that I could and reprocessed it as a bubble. And you'll love this one if you have to play D&D. Okay. If you have to play D&D, you'll understand this reference. Dungeons and Dragons. I simply siphoned all the energy I could, flipped it around, and created a bubble of isolation, if you will, as in protection from evil, 10-foot radius. Okay. Now I know that sounds completely hooped. Okay, but I don't know what words to use to explain how that works. Philip Blair, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Philip is going, greetings, friends of Just World Peace. Here's the thing, and I absolutely agree with that. Mother Teresa, I'm certain most people have heard of her. I think she's been dead for a few years now.
Quite a few.
But she made the comment, she was asked to go to an anti-war rally. And she walked up on stage and told them, she said, I will never arrive at an anti-war rally, ever. However, if you decide to put on a peace rally, I will do my best to be there, one way or the other. Okay. Myself, I ignore most of what goes on. Okay. But do I understand war? Certainly. Oh, there we go. Phil's letting us know that Mother Teresa passed in 1997. Okay. Now, let's face it, she was rather on the aged side. It's kind of expected. But the fact that bearing in mind the amount of work she did to help people, there's an inspiration for you. Okay. Now, yes, I am inspired by her. Energy vampires are fun. Okay. Number one, if you are one or if you suspect you are one, what you do is watch the people around you. Take note of whether or not, take note of whether or not your people seem to get tired around you a lot, or whether they just pass out and nobody says anything. Okay, you may be the other side of it, because there are reverse energy vampires. I'm gonna slap myself in the back of the head so I can quit stuttering. By the way, that's not a good way to do that. Especially not if you're not the one stuttering. That slap in the back of the head, total sidetracked. But as you guys know, I play Dungeons and Dragons. Well, I had a character one day, and he was definitely a thief, not a good thing to be, not in the real world. But he picked this guy's pocket, and all he got was essentially 4 pennies. Well, he turned around and slapped the guy in the back of the head and told him to get a job, and handed him back the 4 pennies. I've got a twisted sense of humor, I know that. But an energy vampire does have the capacity of flipping that around and becoming an energy battery. Now, I caution you, if you're going to do that, be aware you've got to pull the energy from somewhere. Now, your best bet is to pull it straight out of the core of the earth or out of the atmosphere itself. Okay, by drawing the energy to you, you can redistribute it to help bring people up to speed and bring people's energy up to speed. Where are we? Now that's an interesting way to put that, Philip. Philip goes, my nephew is very hyper, like he's full of grasshoppers. Now that paints an interesting picture. You know, we got a little centipede that lives upstairs from us. And I kid you not, from 7 o'clock in the morning till it seems 7 o'clock at night, he is back and forth across the entire house. And then he crashes. Now, no, all kids are not energy vampires. Okay, I swear some of them you'd think were. But when you're looking at a vampire, they literally suck energy, usually on instinct. Okay, and you may notice it more if it's your energy that's getting sucked. Okay, if you're around somebody and if you're feeling really energetic when you're around somebody, okay, and then all of a sudden your energy tanks shortly after they walk into the room, odds are that person is an instinctive energy vampire. You know, so we take a look at that side of it and go, are they evil? No. Okay. And in all fairness, neither Sanguinan, what you would call true vampires. But Sanguinan, just like energy vampires, have a problem with their energy flow. So they draw it from wherever they can get it. You know, and one of the other things with the energy vampire is this. Understand it is usually accidental. Okay, this is not something people go, oh, I really want to be one. On the whole, they don't. But I will tell you, necessity can make you do some pretty silly things. Okay, I learned about my abilities quite simply because of the amount of abuse I went through. Okay, and before anybody goes there, no, it was not my parents. Okay, my parents went out of their way to make sure I landed on my feet. Unfortunately, it didn't work out quite as well as they would have liked. But the thing you got to remember is that when we're dealing with vampires, especially if they don't know they are one, you're dealing with an instinctive case of feeding. Where are we? Just look it up to make sure I didn't pass it and I didn't miss something.
Yeah, you're good so far.
Now.
Oh, wait.
Well, there we are. Yeah. Keith, were you born with the ability to control energy, or was it something you had to learn? It was something I don't know if I want to say I was born with it. When I was actually born, and this is a little more information than you need, I know for an absolute fact that my mom and dad were my mom and dad. Okay, because I remember coming down the birth canal. Okay, the whole catch to it was I was born mottled green and black on a military base. And of course, I remember mom and dad pulling back from me. And then I got whipped off into an incubator. And rest assured, those of you that think that birth is a wonderful experience, from the standpoint of watching it happen, absolutely. But I'm telling you, from the kid's standpoint, this is not fun. So, of course, when I got tossed in the incubator, you got to remember, I went from a real warm, subdued place, okay, completely contained and insulated from the world. Then I get forced down a tight tube, okay, out into the freezing cold, where some giant turned me upside down, beat the living stuffing out of me, and then stabbed me. Okay, now this did not go well in my head. So, of course, now they take me and they put me on a hard surface underneath these searing, blinding lights. Well, I was not impressed. So, I literally left my body. I had no interest in coming back. So, I left. Right? Didn't even put an umbilical cord in place. Okay, that was when I found out I knew how to handle energy. Quite by accident. I'm just reading what Philip's written here. Philip goes, we have a cat who's really, really shy. She likes the nephew. Our cats who are only a little bit shy, they hide from him. Uh-oh. Philip says, muzzled, green and black sounds like a song Bach would write if he came back as a goth metal organist. That's just terrible. Not too terribly wrong, but yeah, I was told. Now, I know what happened. I was told as I was growing up that was a severe case of jaundice. Dad confirmed what it really was later. You know, Blue, how you doing? Glad you could join us. So, Dad confirmed exactly what had happened, or more to the point, he corroborated what I had already found out. But I found out at that point that I knew how to handle energy and work with it. And I kid you not, I went to leave because I'd had enough. I was off and running. Left the body behind. I had no interest in where it was. And here's the drawback. I still have trouble remembering where I am. Where are we here? Oh, I see. Yeah. Pretty good bet. Sorry. Yeah. If I read that again properly, okay, when Phil marked it in, he goes muzzled, green and black, and Kara comes back and goes, I think you meant muzzled. Okay, but I found out I could handle energy and I could do what I would with it. That's when I learned that astral travel is actually relatively simple for me. But when I went to leave, I got cut off by the Council of 12 and they went, wait a minute, you can't go. You signed a contract. Now, bear in mind, I'm not even a day old, corporally speaking. I says, I didn't sign up for that abuse. Well, they didn't quite agree with me and they brought me back to my body.
Yeah, sorry, Woo's comment.
Oh, I see. Where is Woo?
He says...
There we are.
So spend 9 months trying to get back out for the rest of and then the rest of your life trying to get back in.
That is pretty much normal. You know, and we could go down a really, really, shall we say, adult-oriented conversation there. We're not doing that. I'll let your imagination go with that one. Because this is a family-friendly, and I'm talking family-friendly, not mafia-family type thing. Okay, but when I got brought back, okay, the way they got me back into the body, that was really wonderful. I got, on top of all the abuse I already told you about, at least from my standpoint, it was abuse. They electrocuted me. Okay, they literally hooked me up to a I think they called it a defib, but I'm not entirely certain. But I felt the thing, and it hammered me back into my body. I still have trouble remembering where and when I am. What do we got here?
Looks like we're...
Yeah. So all in all, do I know how to work with energy? Pretty much. Okay. Am I the best at it? Not even close. I know a gentleman that could be an energy vampire if he wanted to be, but I've seen him hold his hand over top of water and create a shockwave on the surface of the water without ever actually touching the water. This has been documented and tested by multiple scientists. Okay, and from my standpoint, whether it had been tested or not, I watched it with my very own eyes. So I'm pretty much past the issue of was he being honest. Okay. And one of the things we have to remember, okay, is energy vampires are not inherently bad people. Okay. They quite often have a draw that they just cannot control. Okay. It's like when you look at, and this is a bad analogy in some people's eyes, but it's kind of like alcoholics. Most of them are decent people. They just have a problem. The reality of it is that energy vampires, more often than not, are working on instinct. It's not an intentional thing. In my case, it's kind of intentional at this point because I'll use that same energy that I draw to push people away. And I kid you not, it's not that I have a big problem with it. It's that, well, frankly, I don't like crowds. And if you can clear a room by thinking about it, this is a bonus in my eyes. Okay, but some of you don't want to do that. Yeah, Philip goes, I know when I am, but sometimes I forget when the sun is. Yeah, I got a buddy that'll actually tell the time of day within about 10 minutes by looking at the sun. What do we got? Oh. Yeah. Philip goes, I like AI alcoholics.
Alcoholics. It's first name, last name.
Oh, okay. Better than I like.
That's terrible humor, Philip.
Better than I like algorithms. I work with both. Alcoholics I don't have a problem with. Of course, I used to be one, so that might explain that. I used to be a drug addict. Now my biggest drug is my coffee and my wife. But the reality of it is when you start looking at energy vampires, you're looking at people that automatically draw energy without even necessarily knowing they're doing it. Oh, LA goes, a talented energy person can pulse positive into a room as well as curb panic. Absolutely. Okay. I have seen people do that to disarm armed aggressors, right? To the point of watching the aggressor, and I saw somebody do this. It was fascinating to watch. The aggressor pulled a gun on a group of people. The other guy here, the guy that stepped in, all he did was he held up his hand. He went, "You don't need that gun anymore," and the guy put his gun away. And I mean, this is very possible and very real.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
That too. It's like, you don't need that. You don't require that gun anymore. And the guy put it away. Right. Now, I have a tendency of disarming people by putting my foot in my mouth. Other people have a habit of disarming them by putting their own foot in somebody else's mouth. Okay. But that's not an energy vampire. Uh-oh. LA goes, maybe tambourine? Uh-oh.
Oh, this is in reference to Philip's comments.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have fun. I know my eyesight's failing. I also know I've got an eye appointment at the end of the month here. That should prove to be really beneficial. I know Carrie here is worried I'm going blind. And I keep telling her, look, I can't see anything anyway. But I'm still functioning. The thing with an energy vampire, most empaths are literally energy vampires. They just don't hang on to it. But they automatically draw the emotion to them. This is why you guys, if you are empathic, This is why going into a crowded room can throw you for a loop, because there's too much energy going through you. So net result, you try and curb it. Now here's a neat little trick. If you're doing it accidentally and you're only just finding out that that's what you're doing, take either hand, doesn't matter whether it's your right or your left, put one hand palm down on something that traditionally sits on the floor, be it a recliner, a couch, a heavy table, a counter, a bookcase, even the floor itself. And you visualize that excess energy coming and running out of your hand, much like water out of a faucet. Okay? You will find, first and foremost, you bleed off a whole pile of energy you don't really desire to have. Okay? But this is something you can do to contain yourself. Now, understand, once you get that sorted around, you can do the same thing by taking your hand, putting a palm down on something solid, and visualizing a surplus of energy coming back out of the ground straight into your palm, and thereby rejuvenating your own energy. This is not a problem when you consider the energy core that you're looking for happens to be the heart of a planet. There's lots of energy for you to work with. I felt goes like that video of a guy going into a shop with a weapon. Everyone laughs at him, so he just walks back out of the store. Embarrassed, yeah. And I've seen that. It's like, I'm coming in here, I'm going, I'm rough and tumbling, I'm going to do things, and everybody looks at him and busts out laughing. I tell you, I have been involved, as in born witness to, two of the dumbest bank robbers I'd ever heard of. Where are we here? So, I mean, when you're looking at an energy vampire, being an empath and an energy vampire, you can actually learn to read the energy in a room really well. And this is something I got to teach you before next week. See, there's a neat thing you can do as an energy vampire. You can draw on other energy in order to calm your own nerves. Of course, in all fairness, you can flip it around and drive somebody else's nerves right through the roof. That is negative. Do not do that. Okay? Although it isn't a bad idea if you are facing an aggressive individual. I remember I had a Great Dane coming at me in full throttle, and it was clear he was looking for blood, right? And I stopped. There was another young lass and her son with her, or her daughter with her. I took one look at this onrushing beast, and I met him eye to eye, held my hand out, and I went, not one more step. He hit the brakes and took off at a side angle. Okay, I am not any different than any of you. I've just been doing it longer. Next week, definitely not. The Caribou Con is not until September. But the short answer, Philip Blair is asking, are we doing a presentation next week at Caribou Con? Caribou Con, it's behind me.
It's in September.
I know it's in September. I think the 18th through the 20th. Of course, I wrote it down and now I don't know where it is. But it is in September. Okay. And yes, we are going to be there. We are going to be there to do a presentation. What we are going to be looking at, what we're going to be looking at is what happens during an abduction. Okay. And thank you for the heads up. Appreciate that, LA. Oh, there we are. Yeah. Too bad you can't make it. Well, you got a lot of forewarning there, kitty cat. Hopefully you can make it out. But yeah, it's going to be a day and a half now. I'm already looking at it going, I'll probably go up a day before the con, just because I don't like travel. So I take the extra day so I can settle in and just relax. And of course, yes, I am bringing Carol with me. Hopefully voluntarily, but I'll have to work with it if not. Jeff Garvey, how you doing? Glad you could join us. But yeah, I was talking to Dave because, like I told Dave, you know, he knows his listeners better than I do. So I asked him, I said, with the breadth of information I've got, what topic do you want me to deal with? So he turns around and he goes, how about dealing with what happens during an abduction? I've been through the whole 9 yards. Abduction, contact, just just visitation. I've had direct contact with these guys. And I mean, for me, it's just commonplace. For most people, it's a little bit unnerving. Okay. Now I am hoping, in all fairness, at CaribouCon that we don't have what happened in Portland, Maine. I was in Portland, Maine over a decade ago, and we had an interesting situation there that got a little complicated. Yeah. Yeah. LA's just reminding people, if you've got questions, for pity's sakes, put them in all caps so I can see them. I'm telling you, these do not work as well as I would like right now. But there ain't much I can do about it for about another, I guess, 2 weeks, maybe 3. I think it's only 2 weeks away at this point. Okay. But from my standpoint, when we're dealing with energy vampires, understand most of them don't know they're doing it. Oh, where we are. Oh, Philip goes, I like crowds. When they're crowded where I am not. Well, yeah, I agree with you there. That works. That really does. For me, I've got nothing against crowds. I just have a problem with too many people and sensory overload. So, but when we look at energy vampires, understand many of them, if they don't know it, will either react as though they're overwhelmed or as though they're hungry. Okay, some will be drawing 2 crowds in one heck of a hurry. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that was one heck of that blue alien. That was a Pleiadian hybrid. Okay, and somewhere in my collection, I've actually got a photograph of him. But that was an event. I still got all the records and never did put it to print, right? But I can tell you what happened there was something bizarre, and that part of the Portland, Maine thing, I wouldn't mind. I really wouldn't mind that. It was the attempted abduction of one of our guests that created the problem that I would like to see not happen. Now, where are we here? Oh, I see.
Yeah, you haven't missed too much at present. Jeff attempted to ask a question.
Oh, yeah, I went back up here. And what he asked was, do you got Dave's Vegas? I was in Vegas with Dave, but I'm not sure what you're asking as LA just put it and pointed out.
We are 10 minutes, by the way.
Oh, there we go. Jeff, am I going to Dave's Vegas event? No, that one we're not going to. We are caught right now in the middle of immigration efforts. So we're staying pretty close to home for that one. But I will be in CaribouCon. Or more to the point, we will be. And you said we're down to 10?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just get back into this little chapter here. There we go. Now, Tomorrow, we are going to be working at financial manipulation. We're going to cover some of the simple tools I use to keep my head above water, even when I don't actually have enough income to do it properly. There is a way to do it. And again, I'm no financial advisor. I'm just talking about what I personally have done, and for that matter, am doing. On Tuesday, we're going to look at the social side of self help, and we're going to look at get to know your neighbor. Why? What is the benefit of getting to know your neighbor? In today's world, when we are just absolutely bombarded with negativity and fear, why get to know that person next door? There's a lot of reasons for it, but we'll cover that on Tuesday. That said, let's get back up here. That said, I do want to say, because we're down to the last few minutes here, I do want to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with us tonight. Really appreciate it. I will be back again tomorrow around about 4 o'clock for a day in the office, and then again for Positive Perceptions at 8. So, until we meet again, do take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.